Hey guys, so today we're checking out the Barricade 3.5-inch bull bar with the skid plate and the dual row LED light bar in stainless steel, fitting all 2016 and newer Toyota Tacomas. So if you're not looking to commit to a full front bumper, but you're looking for some very functional protection, as well as a little bit of extra lighting out of the front end of your truck, this option by Barricade is going to be a great choice to take a look into. So this will do a really good job at protecting the front end of your truck and even a little bit of the underneath from any brush, branches, or obstacles on the trail, or really anything that's kicking up on the street. Now this is going to be made of a 3-inch stainless steel tube construction, and you're also going to have a stainless steel plate down at the bottom for that skid plate that's going to give you that functional protection. Now what I really like about this compared to some other choices is the fact that this will integrate a 20-inch dual row light bar. That's going to be perfect for you guys out there that are looking for some extra visibility out of the front end of your truck on dark back roads or dark trails. Now this is going to have a spread and spot combo, giving you the best of both worlds, and it's going to be very durable as well. It's going to have an aluminum housing with a black powder coat finish, a polycarbonate lens, and it's also going to be IP67 rated, so you can ensure that this is going to hold up for a very long time, especially with it being mounted up on the front of your truck. Not to mention you are getting that polished stainless steel finish, which is going to match with any other chrome accessories or trim that you have on your Tacoma already. Now with all that being said, this is going to come in at roughly $350, putting it at a pretty average price point for a bull bar with additional lighting. Now when we take a look at some less expensive choices, you'll usually see bull bars or grill guards that aren't going to include any additional lighting. And then on the other hand, those more expensive choices, again, are usually going to be those big front bumpers that require modification and again are going to be very expensive. So in my personal opinion, I think if you're looking for something in the middle of the road, you're looking for protection for the front end of your truck, but also looking to get some very functional lighting in the meantime, this option is going to be a great choice. Now install is going to be very easy as well. At a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, the light bar is going to come with a harness that's completely plug and play, making it very easy to get this thing on with some very basic hand tools. So speaking of that install, let's jump into that now. The tools that I used for my install were an impact wrench, a pop clip removal tool, a 3/8" drive and 1/4" drive ratchet, a socket set ranging from 16mm down to 10mm, a 16 and a 13mm open-ended wrench. So our first step is to take off our lower splash guard. So for this, you're gonna need a 10mm socket and an impact wrench or a ratchet. So now that we're underneath our Tacoma, we can see that there are multiple 10mm bolts that are holding the splash guard in at the front of our bumper. So what we can do is remove those. So directly behind our splash guard here on either side, we're gonna have 2 10mm bolts. Now it is very difficult to see. However, once you are underneath your Tacoma, you will be able to see them just fine. But we're gonna take that same 10mm socket and remove those. Now we can repeat that on the other side. So once both sides are removed, what we can do is fully remove our splash guard. So this step is optional. However, in order to see the top of our crash bar a little bit better, I'm gonna go ahead and take off our grill. So you're gonna need a 10mm socket as well as a pop clip removal tool for this. So the 2 support arms up at the front of our grill are gonna be held in by a 10mm bolt. I'm gonna go ahead and remove those, the 10mm socket. And then on either side of the corners, there's going to be a pop clip. So you're gonna take your pop clip removal tool or a trim removal tool, and we can pop those out of place. Same thing for the other side. What we can do next is lift up the support arms. They are held in by a little plastic piece, and then we can just go ahead and remove our grill. What we can do next is remove the 2 outer nuts that are holding on our crash bar here. We're gonna leave this one installed, but we are going to sandwich our bracket onto these 2 outer studs. So I'm gonna take a 14mm deep socket and a ratchet. Go ahead and remove the top one. That's why we took off the grill. It makes it a little bit easier. We can repeat that for the bottom one. It may be a little bit easier to access this one from the top as well. What we can do now is install our passenger side bracket. It is going to be labeled with a P on the inside of the bracket itself. Now these two top holes are going to be installed on the studs where we just removed those factory nuts, and then we are going to have a longer bolt that's going to go through our frame into this mounting point down at the bottom. So what we're going to do is actually pass this up underneath. You may have to trim a little bit of your bumper, however, you may not. Then we can go ahead and secure those down with the factory nuts. Now we're not going to tighten it up just yet, we just want to make sure that that bracket is in place. Once the bracket is on, we can head underneath and secure down our last mounting point. So next we can take our long hardware, our flat washer and our spacer washer, and put that through the back of our frame. Now you're gonna also have a front spacer washer that you wanna line up in between the frame and the bracket itself. And then once that's all the way through, we're gonna have another flat washer, a lock washer, and then the nut on the other side to secure that bolt down. And making sure our bracket is level, what we can do is tighten down our provided bolt with a 16mm socket and wrench. Then we can tighten up our two factory nuts with that 14mm deep socket. Right, now we can repeat this process on the other side. So before we head back over to our Tacoma, we do need to put on our secondary brackets, which are going to mount up to the brackets that we just installed. And while we're here, we can also install our light bar. So we're gonna go ahead and start with our brackets, making sure that the flat part is facing in. And so you wanna make sure that this part of the bracket is going to be mounted up to the outside of the brackets that we already have mounted up on our truck. Then we can take our provided hardware and thread that into the threaded hole that's in our bull bar. Now I'm going to snug these up, but I do want to leave them a little bit loose just to make sure that we can adjust this once we get over to the truck. So I'm going to use a 13mm socket and just snug those up. Right, then we can do the same thing on the other side. All right, once our brackets are installed, what we can do is move on to our light bar. So what we can do next is just lay our light bar down in. Then we can take our provided hardware which is the bolt, lock washer, and flat washer. Go ahead and thread that into either side of the light bar. Now we only are going to give it a couple threads because we want to make sure that this is centered. Then we can evenly tighten either side down. And I want to move it back just a little bit. So once the light bar is even and where you want it, you can take a 13mm socket and evenly tighten each side of the light bar down. At this point, if you'd like to reuse your lower splash guard, you would measure this up with the brackets and the mounting brackets on the bull bar itself and cut out 2 holes in order to accommodate for the actual bracket itself. However, we are not going to do that. We like the look of the bull bar without the lower splash shield, so we're gonna put this to the side and then we can mount up our bull bar. So what we can do next is line up both sides of our brackets, making sure that the bracket mounted to our bull bar is on the outside. I'm actually just going to line this up and stick the hardware through. Now, it may be helpful to have a friend at this point. So after the bolt and the flat washer are through, you're going to attach your flat washer, lock washer, and nut. Now we're not going to tighten these down just yet. We want to make sure that everything's adjusted properly. Then we can do the same thing for the other side. So now that your bull bar is attached, what we can do is line our brackets up where we want them, make sure that everything is even, and we can tighten down these 2 brackets with a 16mm socket and wrench. Same for the other side. So after these 2 bolts are tightened down, we just have to make sure that the bolts on the main bracket are tightened down with that 13mm socket. So with this hardware here, it is a little bit tight for a socket, so I am going to use a 13mm ratcheting wrench to tighten those down. Then we can tighten down the other side. What we can do now is wire up our light bar. We are supplied with a wiring harness in the kit, so all of this is plug and play. So you are gonna have a relay as well as your leads for your battery, your switch, and the plug for your light bar. So I'm just gonna lay this right here next to our battery. Just gonna lay out our harness, make sure that everything is going to the right place before we hook anything up. So this is our switch wire. I'm gonna put this over here for now. And then we can run this down to our light bar. Now our lead on our light bar itself is gonna come underneath our bumper into our grill area. So I'm just gonna route this over here, and this will be tucked behind our grill. And we'll plug this in just a second, but we'll leave this here for now. And we can head back over to our battery. So now we can hook our wiring harness up to our battery. I'm gonna take a 12mm socket and remove our accessory nut for the power here. You can tighten that back up with the 12mm socket. Then we can take a 10mm socket and do the same thing for our negative terminal. Now we won't have an accessory nut like this one does, so we can just attach it to the side here. All right, so once that's tightened down to our battery, what we can do next is run our switch wire. So in order to run our switch wire a little bit better, what I'm gonna do is actually disconnect our switch from the main wire here. We can put this to the side, and we can take this main wire and run it through the grommet, through our firewall, and it will drop down in our cab area on the driver's side. Once we feed that through, we can head inside our cab area. So where we actually pulled this through is a little bit difficult to see, but it's going to be on the upper left-hand side of the footwell on your driver's side. Then we can take the other part of our switch, plug that in. We can peel off the backing tape, and then you can place this wherever you'd like. I'm just gonna place it right here just because it's easily accessible. Then what you want to do is just tie this excess wire up out of the way. There's a little bit of a trim piece here which you can tuck it into with some other wires, but I would recommend make sure that they are tied out of the way properly, just because you don't want this wire coming down and interfering with your brake pedal or your clutch pedal. So as you can tell, I took the lead from our light bar itself, routed it underneath our bumper there. We can plug this in, all right. So next we need to tie up these wires, and then we'll be able to put our grill back on. Next we can reattach our grill. Then we can take our hardware, thread that into the top. It's gonna be our two 10mm bolts. We can tighten those up with our 10mm socket that we originally took them out with. Right. Then we can reattach our pop clips on either side. Great. Now that our grill is reattached, all we have to do is close up our hood and we're all set to go. So that's gonna wrap it up for my review and install. Make sure you like and subscribe, and for more videos and products like this, always keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.